More common toxic foods to avoid. Welcome to Dogo Argentino, USA. I'm your host, Nicole. Now, if you think your dog might have been poisoned, please consider calling one of these pet poison hotlines. I am not affiliated, I earn nothing if you do, but it is a great resource if you are concerned that your Dogo Argentino might have eaten something he or she shouldn't. And do be advised, I do think that most charge a consultation fee, which is quite reasonable. And as always, I have to ask, please subscribe for more, give us a thumbs up and a comment. This is Volume 2, even more common toxic foods to avoid. Let's dive in. Number 10, hops. Now everybody knows, everyone loves beer. It is one of everybody's favorite beverages. But if you do home brewing, hops are the main herb in beer. For home brewers, it can pose a poisoning risk to your dogo. Hops poisoning can cause vomiting, panting, increased heart rate, fever, and even death. And of course, because home brewers have lots of hops, there is lots of opportunity for harm. So make sure you keep that item locked up if you have it. Let's dive into wild mushrooms. Wild mushrooms pose a poisoning threat to your dogo, particularly after rain and warmer months. Unfortunately, it is a complete myth that dogs can tell the difference between poisonous plants and harmless ones. And there is a wide variety of poisonous mushrooms. Signs of wild mushroom poisoning can greatly vary based on the type of mushroom and include things like vomiting, tremors, salivating, weakness, ataxia, pain, diarrhea, organ failure, death, and a lot of pain. So if your dogo is the kind that wants to investigate by eating, you should muzzle train him or her early to avoid the problems associated with wild mushrooms. You just want to make sure that your pet is not at risk to eat something because there really isn't any cure for it. So it's not like you can go get a shot or something. If they eat wild mushrooms, chances are things are going to go badly if those mushrooms are toxic. Now let's talk about nutmeg. Nutmeg in small amounts is not a problem. So like if you had a cookie and ate the cookie, that's probably not going to be a big deal. But nutmeg in large amounts is going to be a problem. And the agent that's in nutmeg that's toxic is called myristicin. And myristicin poisoning is going to present with vomiting, diarrhea, hallucinations, disorientation, increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, dry mouth, seizures. It's bad news. So you definitely want to lock up your nutmeg if you have some of that at home. If baking is one of your hobbies, you need to keep the nutmeg away from the dogo. I like to use those canisters that have the locking lids just to be absolutely certain if a canister got knocked off that there is no possible way the dogo could get into it. Now let's look at human vitamins. Now, prenatal vitamins are incredibly toxic due to the high amounts of iron which can cause a disruption in the Dogo Argentino's body. Those are the most dangerous. So you really need to be careful with those. But they're not the only ones that are dangerous. Vitamin D is extremely dangerous because it will increase the levels of calcium and phosphate in the body, which can lead to permanent damage of the organs. So you want to be very careful with vitamin D. But the main thing about vitamins is that they're designed for humans and not for Dogo Argentinos. And so the percentage of vitamins and minerals in multivitamins is designed specifically for a person and not for a dogo. And the thing is, a dogo system and a human system are a little bit different. Baking soda is toxic because in the presence of a dog's stomach, acid combined with his body heat will begin to expand and release potentially deadly gas, and it can result in electrolyte abnormality, congestive heart failure, muscle spasms, lethargy, diarrhea, depression, tremors, seizures, shortness of breath, and disorientation, as well as death. So if you love to bake, make sure that your baking soda is well put away. You do not want to mess with that. And if you think that your dog had any large amount of baking soda, you really need to take it to the vet immediately. So baking soda, also baking powder, Any kind of leavening agent is not something that is an excellent fit for a dogo because of the possibility of bloat. So just make sure those are well put away. Now let's look into cow's milk. Cow's milk in and of itself is not toxic if you have a tablespoon or two, but there are some really unpleasant reactions that include vomiting, diarrhea, loose stools, flatulence due to a lack of tolerance to the enzymes in milk. Now the milk molecule is extremely large, and that's why it's difficult to digest, whereas goat's milk, the molecule is very small, and that's a common thing to give a lactating bitch. Cooked fat trimmings. Now, when I was young, cooked fat trimmings was something that my dogs got and they adored. But over time, your friend can get pancreatitis from cooked fat trimmings. So you want to avoid making it a habit to give that to them. It's just not balanced for their diet, and it can cause all sorts of problems later on. And I also think that cooked food in general is not as well digested as raw food, but still avoid heavy amounts of fat. Now let's talk about yeast dough. It might seem innocent to give your dogo a little bit of yeast dough if you're making donuts or you're going to make some bread, but it really isn't as innocent as it seems. In fact, it can be quite dangerous. So the real problem with yeast is that it will start to cause bloat, flatulence. As the yeast ferments inside the body, it can lead to alcohol poisoning, and that alcohol poisoning can ultimately actually kill your Dogo Argentino. So whether it's donuts or breads or muffins, it really doesn't matter what the baked good is. It matters if there's yeast in it, and if there is, you should definitely avoid giving it to your dogo. Citrus plants, particularly the leaves, bark, and skin, are high in citric acid, and high amounts of citric acid can lead to diarrhea and vomiting. So if you're one of those gardeners that keeps a lemon tree in your house, or your dog cannot access that plant because it can be very toxic if they get a hold of the leaves particularly. Marijuana ingestion can cause neurological deficiency, incontinence, heart rate changes both up and down, hyperactivity, coma, and death. So you should not feed marijuana to your dogs, and you should make sure that it is locked up if you happen to imbue. Now this is different than CBD oil, which is an extract, and I've done some research on that, and that seems to be largely harmless. But the plant material itself can be a problem. So it's definitely not a joke. You don't want to give your dog marijuana. Now, of course, I'm sure you're curious as to what good foods are for your dogos. And this isn't an exhaustive list, but I'm going to give you a few that you can rely upon to give them extra vitamins and minerals that are really going to help them out. So let's look at some fruits that are good for them. Banana, apple slices, strawberry, blueberry, watermelon, cantaloupe. Cranberry is actually excellent. It has a lot of antioxidants in it, and fruit in general contains fiber, it contains water. It's just a really excellent nutritional item for your dog. So in addition to cranberry, you can give mango, peaches, raspberries, and all of those are going to provide great fiber. If you are wondering, there's tons of veggies that are great for Dogo Argentino dogs. They give minerals, vitamins, water, roughage, things like broccoli, carrot, celery, cucumber, green beans, spinach. All of those are absolutely excellent for your Dogo Argentino's health. Now you don't need a ton, but they are wonderful, and you should make sure that you're giving a little bit of fresh produce, a little bit of fresh veg. And if you want to see my video on raw feeding, I do have a beginning video. I am going to do cooking videos once the quarantine lifts, but I need help to film those. You can give your dog a wide variety of meats, and that can include things like bison, venison, rabbit, beef, lamb, turkey, chicken, pork, salmon, All of those are going to provide excellent sources of protein for your Dogo Argentino. And I'm really looking forward to doing some cooking videos with raw food. I say cooking, but I really mean more recipe videos. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, I work for you guys, and I'm trying to make your life with your Dogo just a little easier. I hope that you'll consider subscribing. We put out new content every single week. And as always, hit the bell icon so you never miss a Dogo video. And if there's something specific you want to see, always feel free to comment. Here you'll see my Dogo Argentinos on top of massive pipes for wells. And I love to take my dogs to novel environments. It helps stimulate their mind, it balances their personality so that unusual environments or situations are just no big deal. And you can see as they walk across these pipes, which are several hundred pounds apiece, they're not going anywhere. They're not concerned. They're like, whatevs, we got this. And it's really fun for the dogs.